Just days ago, headlines were swirling with concern. Reports claimed Shedeur Sanders was dealing with arm soreness, a red flag for any rookie quarterback trying to earn his spot in the NFL. Whispers grew louder. Was he pushing too hard? Was the transition from college taking a toll? But on day 10 of Brown's training camp, Shedeur walked onto the field with zero hesitation. No taped arm, no sign of discomfort, just calm focus and a quiet edge. Like someone who heard the noise and decided to shut it down. His throws started clean, a crisp out route to the tight end, a smooth warm-up pass to Deontay Johnson. Mechanics looked sharp, body language even sharper. And when the media caught up with him post-practice, Sanders addressed the elephant in the room. He admitted the soreness came from adjusting to the stop-and-start rhythm of pro practices. But he made one thing clear: he wasn't worried. And based on what we saw, he didn't need to be. The message was subtle, but loud enough for anyone paying attention. If this is what Shedeur looks like when he's hurt, defenses better be ready when he's 100%. Before practice even began, insiders were buzzing. Reporters like Tony Grossi and Daniel Oyefusi confirmed what many fans hoped to hear. Both Joe Flacco and Shedeur Sanders were expected to get a heavy rep load for day 10. With Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel dealing with hamstring tightness, it looked like Shedeur had a clear shot to take over valuable first-team reps. But then, something didn't quite add up. Despite being the only fully healthy young QB in the rotation, Shedeur opened practice running with the third team. Meanwhile, Flacco, the aging veteran, was getting reps with the starters. Even more confusing, Dillon Gabriel, who was reportedly limited, had received increased first-team snaps just a week earlier. What was going on? Was the coaching staff playing it safe? Or was something deeper happening behind the scenes? A quiet message about pecking order, politics, or patience? Whatever the reason, it was clear. Health wasn't the issue anymore. And fans couldn't help but wonder why Sanders, arguably the most electric young talent in the room, was still being kept at arm's length. And then came the moment that turned heads across the field. For a split second, everything paused. Shedeur dropped back, saw the opening, and let it rip. A wide-open receiver streaking downfield. The kind of throw every quarterback dreams of, and every coach watches closely. And then he missed. A clean opportunity for a touchdown sailed just out of reach. Cameras caught it, analysts clipped it, critics were ready. In the high-pressure world of NFL camps, even one blown chance can stick to a rookie's name like glue. But Shedeur Sanders? He didn't flinch. On the very next series, he came back and delivered, first hitting tight end Luke Floria in stride, then connecting again with Deontay Johnson on a sharp timing route. Poised, confident, unshaken. Where most young quarterbacks might spiral after a blown throw, Shedeur showed something that doesn't show up on stat sheets: resilience. He wasn't trying to be perfect. He was trying to grow. And that mindset? It's rare. The missed touchdown may have made the highlight reel, but the way he responded is what got the coaches talking. But that moment wouldn't be the only thing raising questions about his role. Not even close. By the middle of practice, something strange was becoming hard to ignore. Despite being fully cleared and performing well, Shedeur Sanders continued to get most of his reps with the third-team offense. Not the second, not the starters, the third. Joe Flacco, the 38-year-old journeyman, was still leading drills with the first team. Dillon Gabriel was sidelined. Kenny Pickett was reportedly out with a hamstring issue. And yet somehow, Shedeur, the only healthy, mobile, and dynamic quarterback available, was still stuck behind the line. It wasn't just odd. It was starting to feel intentional. Observers and fans online began asking the same question. What exactly does Shedeur need to do to earn a shot? And it wasn't just about reps. It was the situations he was placed in. Short windows, limited weapons, low-leverage drills. It felt less like development and more like containment. Was the team being cautious, Or were they deliberately slow playing his rise? Because for a player known for thriving under pressure, they weren't giving him much of it. And when it was finally his turn to lead a late-game drill, the spotlight got even brighter. Finally, Shedeur got his shot. Late in practice, he was called in to lead the second-team offense in a simulated late-game drill, a high-pressure situation meant to test decision-making, awareness, and control. It was the kind of moment where reputations are built or broken. His first pass wiped out by an illegal formation penalty. Not his fault, but it set the tone. The defense was dialed in, the pocket was collapsing, and Shedeur had to reset fast. On the next play, he delivered a clean completion to Luke Floria that helped set up a potential 40-yard field goal. No panic, no hesitation, just execution. For a rookie, this wasn't just a good sign, it was a signal. He was showing the traits teams crave in their franchise guy: poise, control, and short memory. Mistake? Move on. Pressure? Embrace it. But even with that late-game composure, it still felt like he was being boxed in. Every step forward came with a reminder: you're still waiting your turn. And after practice wrapped, the team's body language said more than the stat sheet ever could. When practice ended, most thought the evaluation was over. But in Cleveland, there's one more test: the Hungry Dog Session. A post-practice routine where the most locked-in players get a final round of plays. It's intense, competitive, and it speaks volumes about who the staff sees as rising. This time, Shedeur was in the mix. He got the first half-dozen snaps, while others, including Dillon Gabriel, watched from the sidelines. Not injured, just watching, observing, silently. For anyone paying attention, it was hard to miss the shift. Shedeur, once behind the scenes, was now the one leading the huddle. Even if unofficially, he wasn't flashy. He wasn't shouting, but his presence felt steady, calculated, confident. And Gabriel, once labeled the more NFL-ready of the two, was suddenly on the outside looking in. Was this the coaching staff's quiet acknowledgement? Or just a test within a test? Whatever the answer, the dynamic was changing, and not just between the quarterbacks. You could feel it in the huddles, in the sidelines, in the way reps were divvied up. And now, with joint practices looming, Shedeur's next move could flip everything. The Browns aren't staying in Cleveland for long. The team is packing up and heading to Charlotte for joint practices against the Carolina Panthers, followed by their preseason opener on Friday. And for Shedeur Sanders, this next stretch isn't just important. It could be career-defining. Joint practices offer something team drills don't: real competition. New defensive looks, new energy, no familiarity. It's where players either shrink or shine, and coaches notice everything. So far, Shedeur has handled every curveball, from questionable rep assignments to unnecessary scrutiny, with patience and maturity. But Charlotte? That's a new arena. If he balls out there, it becomes impossible to justify keeping him buried on the depth chart. Fans are already divided. Some say the Browns are mishandling a potential star. Others argue it's just part of the process, a slow, steady build. But one thing is clear: this is no longer about arm soreness, third-team reps, or missed touchdowns. This is about opportunity, and what happens when a young quarterback gets just enough of it to change everything. And if the Browns aren't ready to let him loose, the rest of the league might be. In just one day, Shedeur Sanders went from a question mark to a walking headline. He battled through injury whispers, strange depth chart decisions, and the kind of pressure that cracks most rookies. And instead of folding, he adapted, adjusted, answered, not with his mouth, but with every throw, every rep, every second he was on that field. The Browns say they're evaluating. They say there's a process. But at some point, development starts to look a lot like delay. And delaying a rising star only works for so long. Because Shedeur isn't here to sit quietly and wait for a turn that might never come. He's already proving he belongs, not just in the league, but in the conversation. The only question left now? Will Cleveland realize what they have before someone else does?